No, you're not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. I am back for the second of two shows tonight here on Sportswire Radio in our night matinee here of our doubleheaders. A guest here that certainly needs no introduction, but he has done a lot in a short amount of time here this season in TBW. He has done a phenomenal job representing this company. He has certainly proven why to many he is definitely that Puerto Rican nightmare, and his Mijos have certainly carried him to that hardcore championship and done a lot of great things here, and why he's one of these names to watch. It is a real honor to have him on here, and he's going to talk about his journey, his future, and plus, who knows what else in between. As I pointed out, he needs no introduction, but because he's heard many TBW shows here in the past, he has to get that introduction that everybody else has gotten. So, with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one. Global Sports Show from Tennessee. Backyard Wrestling. They call him the Puerto Rican Nightmare. Manny Kobra. Manny, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good, and you?
I hope the me host enjoyed that introduction, because I know you don't get that kind of introduction in
Hope
TBW, that's for sure.
hopefully they do, man.
Well,
Hopefully
we
they do.
know they are, because this is a real treat, ladies and gentlemen. You have certainly been one of the fan favorites in TBW. You've certainly fought against the odds. You've certainly done a lot. You've shown why you're one of those guys that you want to root for here. But, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, Manny Kobra, it is certainly a tremendous honor to have you. But I have to ask you, with everything that you've done this season, everything that you've went through, I mean, what's next for Manny Kobra, the Puerto Rican Nightmare?
Well, Tom, I'm planning to, you know, stay away from a hardcore title.
Really? That's been your championship that you fought for, and it's meant so much to you this season.
Yep, but I'm mainly focused on making an impact on TBW. I
Mm.
may, I may return the next episode. I may return Summer Bash, or probably after Summer Bash. Who knows? I'll probably go for the Intercontinental title,
Mm.
or maybe just maybe shut Ledger's mouth up
You
with
want to
his.
shut up Ledger Shade's mouth? You really want to try that, especially with the 500-day celebration coming up for the champion, the Anarchy King himself? You sure?
I'm sure. I'm tired of him running his mouth and his little sidekick penguin and his
You've heard that
three.
on prior Sports Wire shows. That's why you're calling him the Penguin. That's why.
And then his little goonies that made their huge returns.
Club and Spade, Club and Spade. You got to certainly watch them with two eyes in the back of your head. You know that, Manny.
Damn right. While I was taking my time off, spending time with my little girl,
Hmm.
I keep my eyes on Ledge, you know, even Gage, but mostly what caught my attention was that title reign.
Okay. I mean, it's certainly been a record-setting title reign, and he's went through a whole number of people here on this roster and names that are as impressive as anybody in this sport. But I mean, you struggled to wrest back that hardcore championship from the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, who, oh, by the way, was the last man to have held the TBW title before Mr. Shade did. But I mean, we love you here, Manny. You know that you've got the Mihoses behind you, but I mean, Ledger Shade, I mean, you couldn't get the hardcore title back. Now we're going to get the world?
Hey, it's. I mean, think about it.
Right.
Atomic Titan, Atomic Titan, the man who has been world champion several times.
He's the American Dragon. He's the man that was supposed to continue the story, and we had him here last week. And yeah, I mean, he was supposed to have finished the job and wrested back that championship that he dominated with 2 years ago. Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
He couldn't get the job done.
Right,
Could have finished the story. Gage Flair couldn't beat Ledge.
right.
Daniel Cole didn't. Daniel
We
Cole
haven't seen
couldn't
the
beat
Alpha
Ledge.
Daniel Cole since. I mean, is Daniel Cole alive? I mean, is he buried somewhere? What is going on with the Alpha Daniel Cole?
Don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
But yet again, I want to spoil the surprise.
You don't want to spoil the surprise. Okay, fine. But I'm still going to say I'm skeptical here. Now, I try to call things down the line on Sportswire. I try to speak with people all over the place. But, you couldn't take the hardcore title back from the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson. And we just saw what he did in the show between Resurrection and TBW. You couldn't step up and take that title from him. You got a pinfall victory over him. Really, that was kind of a cheap victory the last time we saw you guys in tag team action. But, I mean, to go and Ledger Shade, I mean, his run speaks for itself. I mean, now a title to me that I think would be a little bit more presentable for you that you might want to challenge for, as you mentioned the name prior, Gage Flair, the Nature Boy, Mr. Woo Boy himself, Gage Flair, a man you have history with. He is the new Intercontinental Champion. Now, we heard the Atomic Titan story last week on the show, but wouldn't you think that would be a title that would be a little bit more in your wheelhouse? The Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra?
See, about me is nobody knows. I have beat Gage Flair on his game before.
Yes, you have 2 years ago. I agree. That's why I bring that up.
Yeah, I lost to Joe Anderson.
A few times
But
you lost to the Grim Reaper, Joe
exact.
Anderson.
But again, I'm up for the challenge. If the Mijos agree for me to go after Ledge,
But have the
I'm going for it.
Mijoses agree? We haven't seen you on TV in a couple of shows. We didn't see you in the Intercontinental title tournament. We didn't see you in TBW versus Resurrection. So what do the Mijoses think?
I don't know. I mean, it's up to them what they want to see. What
Okay,
do
well, we're
you?
gonna certainly find out. I mean, I'll give you that much. I'll certainly find out, and I will say hello to a few people. The good guy CJ Black from ROEW basically wants to know who are you. Well, we're learning a little bit about that tonight. Chase Wakefield, the WB himself. He is the Bitcoin billionaire. He says maybe I'll be seeing Kobra soon. He also cut a promo because we're going to see him next week at Amplified Wrestling out there in West Virginia. So we're excited about that. Manny for the U.S. title. All right, so that's another championship. So how about that title? That title is another title that I could see the Puerto Rican Nightmare. That would make sense, right? Puerto Rico, U.S. I mean, that would sort of make sense logically. I mean, what about that championship there for you?
Well, this is my thing. I didn't say which title I'm going for against if I go for Ledge. I didn't say which
Okay.
title,
Okay, but
but
you said Mr. Shade first, and I went on and asked you questions.
yeah. But remember, Gage has one title, but Ledge got two. I never
Okay.
mentioned which one I'm going for.
All
So
right. I mean, I'll give you that much, but Okay, I'll leave that for a minute. I want to say hello to somebody that is also a fan of us here on Sportswire Radio, Mr. Michael Blackheart. He also does kind of a podcast. He says, "Good evening. Kobra seems like a great guy." So we're definitely learning that here. So, I mean, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, I'll come back to TBW in a second. But, I mean, what got you into becoming a wrestler and being a huge part of this roster here in TBW?
Well, it started a long time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I watched WWE when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, around there. When
Mm-hmm.
it was Stone Cold, The Rock,
Mm-hmm.
Eddie
You sound
Guerrero.
like James Taylor, then Stone Cold, and following it through that. The Rock.
I'm a fan of Attitude Era.
Okay.
You know, uh, eventually, huge fan of few WWE wrestlers, and mostly three of them are not alive no more.
Oh,
But one of them, well, three of them are Eddie Guerrero,
rest in peace. Sure.
and I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name on cast, but
Oh
Chris
no.
Benoit,
I knew you were going there. Once I heard that name, I'm like, oh boy, he's mentioning Benoit.
Bret Wyatt,
Rest in peace, obviously. Almost 2 weeks ago. Yep, that he passed away. Sure.
the way he creates his own stuff,
Yep.
you know, and also Randy Orton.
Well, Randy Orton, certainly of the names that you spoke about, is maybe in terms of longevity, one of the most successful to have ever stepped foot in a ring in the WWE. And we would hope to certainly see him in the ring very, very soon. It's been now, I think, just about a year and change, maybe about 15 or 16 months since we haven't seen the Apex Predator. And obviously, I could see some similarities between you and Mr. Orton with that finisher you have there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I I I love it.
Mhm.
I love those wrestlers. That's why it inspires me to do more wrestling, but like backyard wrestling, interesting wrestling. I even started in backyard wrestling. I was 16 back in Florida, and we decided to split up. We moved back over here to Tennessee,
Okay.
and then about I would say last year or 2 years ago, I joined TBW.
I was gonna say I thought it was 2 years ago you joined TBW.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in TBW, trying to make an impact for myself.
No, you definitely are, and I was curious about something because obviously you're the Puerto Rican nightmare. Now, I'm sure you know this by now, and I'll get to comments. I'm from New York, right? So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I actually happen to have had a fair amount of friends. I wouldn't say hundreds of friends, but a fair amount of friends in my time that are Puerto Rican, and even some cases were from Puerto Rico. So I would have to ask you then. I mean, maybe talk to us here about the audience in terms of the transition from Puerto Rico here down in the South. And I mean, just, maybe some of the things that I think you've kind of experienced, or just, what's it been like making that adjustment?
Well, well, I'm not been in Puerto Rico since I was 12. I'm
Okay.
100%. I'm 100% Puerto Rican.
Right. I knew that,
For
obviously.
for those that don't know, some say that I'm making my accent up. Just put it out there. And well, I moved to Florida. I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
Then after I turned 18, I moved to Tennessee. While I was in the U.S. for this long, I started to learn English little by little, and look
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Where in Puerto Rico did you grow up in Puerto Rico till you were in 12? Where were you in Puerto Rico?
Um, the Bayamon.
Okay, Bayamon. Sure, I know Bayamon very well, actually. I know a number of baseball players came from Bayamon. Sure, Bayamon definitely. Also, Puerto Rico's a big hotbed for wrestling, obviously. I'm surprised you didn't bring up the Colon family.
Oh
I'm
yeah, oh
surprised
yeah.
you didn't bring
Let
up
me,
Savio Vega. I mean, there's a lot of Puerto
yeah, let me
Rican
say
wrestlers.
this,
Yeah.
and I think one. special person back home, my uncle, who has taken me to Xavier Vega's wrestling show, live events a lot, tons of times.
So what's that like then in Puerto Rico? I'm curious because I speak with a lot of wrestlers around the world, and I'll come back to TBW in a second. But I'm curious because I speak with wrestlers that have wrestled in Japan. Mexico is an example. My buddy Vito Fratelli, who had wrestled the MLW World Champion Alexander Hammerstone at the time. I've had guys that have even been in Italy, Japan, certainly England, Australia. But I'm curious in terms of what's a show experience like in Puerto Rico?
Well, in Puerto Rico, it gets hot and it gets raining.
Well, obviously that I knew from baseball because obviously baseball is massive in Puerto Rico, and I played baseball growing up. So
Yeah. It's mostly we Puerto Rico. We love basketball, baseball, wrestling, of course. Now, I don't know where we got a soccer team,
hmm.
and pretty much uh we got pretty good food.
Oh, I knew
Uh,
that. I mean, I knew those things because growing up, you're gonna laugh. My mother, we were growing up in Brooklyn. She would use the Goya seasoning to cook the chicken because we grew up with.
yeah,
Like I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, so I mean, obviously, we knew a fair amount of Puerto Ricans. I mean, I can't say everybody I grew up with was Puerto Rican, but I went to high school and I went to junior high school and I went to a fair amount of my friends who I played baseball with were Puerto Rican. So I mean, I figured that obviously the food that I kind of knew.
oh yeah. But my favorite sports playing is basketball.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
Hmm.
I'm on.
Okay.
That's the only good sports I'm good at, basketball.
Well, wrestling's
Uh,
a sport, so you're getting good at wrestling. So I mean, that's obviously
Also wrestling. Let's not forget wrestling, of course. Thank you. Uh,
because on
I,
Sportswire, I don't know if you know this, I speak with a lot of wrestlers, and a lot of them are the pros. I mean, they're like the big time. So I always say wrestling to me is a sport. I know people say, it's entertainment, it's fake. I say, no, 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 no. Trust me, I'm the guy that interviews all the people around the world. So here on Sportswire, we consider it sports because, well, we're Sportswire.
right. Yeah. I love those two things, basketball and wrestling. Basketball, I love. Keeps my mind occupied. Uh, it's something I would. I don't know.
So what do you
Would
see
tell.
in terms of? So I got that, and we're here speaking with the Puerto Rican Nightmare, the former TBW Hardcore Champion of the world himself, Manny Kobra. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and if you're out there on YouTube on Sportswire Radio, before I get to comments, please follow our friends at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling on YouTube and Instagram. They also have a huge show coming up, which is the 150th episode of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. So make sure you check out Rampage. We'll see the 500th day celebration of the championship run for our world champion, Mr. Ledger Shade himself. But I mean, basketball, which again is a sport I know very well. I cover college basketball. I've interviewed a lot of college basketball players. So is there any similarities in basketball and wrestling? I would think maybe the pace, maybe the style. I would say maybe some of those things. So talk to me about that.
Pretty much, wrestling and basketball has two things similarly. Like has to do with stamina, charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mainly you gotta focus on one thing.
Basketball is a lot of talking. Basketball is obviously a lot of street talking and obviously a lot of trash talking, you might say. And wrestling is a
It's the
lot of
same
that.
thing with swimming.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I know that very well. Growing up in the streets, we would play out there, and we'd have a lot of that back and forth. But let me get to some comments here. The Puerto Rican Nightmare. While you're moving around, I want to say hello. Speaking of people you just mentioned, of course, our reigning, defending, brand new intercontinental champion of the world, the Nature Boy himself, Gage Flair, gives the big woo caps lock exclamation points. Manny is my man. He's my cousin. Anything you want to say to the Nature Boy?
Yeah.
What do you
Me and
want to say?
Gage go way back, way back.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I first, when I make my debut on TVW,
Right.
I was the me and Destroyer. What was the one to rescue Gage Flair from Atomic Titan and the
Yes.
industry.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, we had our fallouts
You did. I'm aware.
because he got mad because I MTK destroyer.
Well, I mean, he certainly had his reasons why. I mean, but you guys definitely haven't really been on the same side of the coin of late, and especially this season. So, maybe that goes back to what I said earlier. That's a championship that maybe would be a fit there for you. Taking on the Intercontinental Champion, the Nature Boy Gage Flair, man, you have a lot of personal history with, and maybe that would be a match that people might want to see again if you're going to go and move into a different direction.
Well, like I said,
We'll
I
have to
may be
find
going.
out.
Maybe I want to go against Gage one more time for the
Hmm.
title. This
Oh,
time for the title.
well, it's
Maybe.
time. I'll tell you that much. It is time, and it's time for me to get to some more comments. I want to say hello to another person that's with me for the second time today. That is Daniel Banner. Of course, he is from GT Ministries in the UK, and he wants to say hello, gents. He's training to be a pro wrestler, and his trainer is Sean Only, who just wrestled the natural born fighter RP Davis for the Wrestle Island World Championship. And obviously, Mr. Davis was a huge topic on my show earlier with the legendary Dean Allmark, who, oh, by the way, has defeated a guy not once but twice named Brian Danielson. So you might have heard of that name. And that who was my guest today was Mr. Allmark, who defeated Mr. Danielson. In fact, they used to travel up and down the road together. But that's here nor there. I want to say hello to somebody else working his way up the ranks, the American Viper, Cody Flores. What's up, Manny? TB Dub, TB Dub, TB Dub, TB Dub. Anything you want to say to the American Viper?
Hey, kid. Hope to see you later on. Maybe we have a one-on-one match to see who's the truly snake
Ooh,
on the backyard.
ooh. Well, there's a lot of snakes I know in Tennessee, but we'll have to find out who might be the bigger snake of them all. And he also says you're a big gamer. So, what games do you play then? What kind of games do you play?
Um, I play a lot of Call of Duty.
Okay.
Sometimes I play Fortnite.
Fortnite is the big topic. I've interviewed a lot of professional baseball players, and a lot of the guys that I had interviewed were actually basically up and comers. And I would ask them, so what do you do on your downtime? And a lot of these players who would have these big signing bonuses, probably talking about in some cases, could be 250, 300 grand. A couple of the guys got called up in the major leagues, and they would tell me they play Fortnite because Fortnite is a great way to kill time and it's an easy game to get to. So I could see Fortnite. And I have one game that I'm actually into right now because I just saw the movie twice, Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo. See, I played Gran Turismo one time and I was not a big fan of it.
Okay. Well,
It,
you gotta buy the steering wheel. That's the trick. You buy the steering
but
wheel.
that's the thing. One racing game I will play is Forza.
Oh, Forza. Yes, I played Forza. Yes, well, I had a buddy and I used to go into his basement. He had this like massive man cave in Brooklyn. He had like an 85-inch TV, and he spent like all his money, kind of like what I'm doing now, and trying to rearrange the setup here in Sportswire with the new lighting and some of the new stuff. And he was big into Forza. We would play Forza. That was definitely a good game here. But let me get to some more comments here. Speaking of a promotion and a company, we hear from Macon Championship Wrestling. Maybe that rings a bell, Manny, because Manny is my next victim, Xavier Thorne. I know Xavier Thorne very well. He says, "What's up, Emilio? Can't wait to see y'all again." Now, obviously, Xavier Thorne is certainly making his way up the ranks here. I've seen him in different promotions. And, what do you want to say to Mr. Thorne? Is obviously he referred to also you as Mijo. So, anything you want to say?
Uh, Listen, Chico. Um, Whenever you get up here where I'm at, then I'll face you one day
Wait, but you're talking to Xavier Thorne, though.
as Xavier Thorne.
Okay, so are you saying that he's below you?
I'm not saying he's below me. I'm not saying he's greater than me either.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
when I see him beat at least Gage Flair, then he could step in the ring with me.
Okay, all right. I mean, maybe not. We'll have to see. I'm sure Mr. Thorne will have a response, and I'll give him that response shortly. I want to say hello to our friend who I think is a part of the roster in Wrestling Championship Entertainment, Mr. Zero Deus, and he says wrestling deserves a spot in the Olympics. Well, I mean, amateur wrestling, I guess, was in the Olympics. I mean, you're not going to get the WWE style in the Olympics, but certainly
Yeah.
it's a point taken. And Daniel would like to say, "Nice to meet you, Manny." He's the cosplay kid because yes, that's his gimmick. He's the cosplay kid. I want to say hello to another recent one of our individuals here on Sportswire that's become a favorite. He says, "Good evening, men." Also, another comment here which I can't pull up now. I can. Xavier Effenthorn versus Manny Cobra return match. Let's go. What do you say?
I don't think that's on my list right now.
Why not?
Sorry, dude. Because, like I said earlier, I'm focusing on making a huge impact, facing each one, either Gage or Ledge for one of those titles.
Okay, but the track record in TBW for you has been mixed. I mean, Fat Asian was the last time we saw you on TV. You beat him by countout. You obviously lost the rematch for the hardcore title. Before that, you were in tag team match action with Shane Davidson, and you got the pin technically, but Davidson did the work to get the pin for you. So, I mean, Gage is obviously going to have his opinions, and he's going to have challengers lined up, and you know, are you the guy to challenge Gage Flair? I mean, I guess that's to be determined.
I mean,
And there's the Atomic Titan who's still lurking. The Atomic Titan said here on Sportswire Radio last week that he's getting another shot at it.
let's see if we could close that chapter right there.
But the Atomic Titan is the American Dragon. If he wants to finish the story and get another shot, especially with how he lost the title in rather very controversial fashion, I mean, he is entitled to that rematch. So you may be not even facing Mr. Flair for that Intercontinental title. You might just be facing him in a one-on-one match.
Well, if I have to go through, let's say, Joe Anderson again,
The Grim Reaper, yep.
Jacob Young,
Jacob Young, the Black Widow, yep.
or I could just face Atomic Titan myself for
Are you
not that
saying that
spot.
you want to face the Atomic Titan and basically that's how you're going to get your spot
Who
in?
knows?
No?
Who knows? It's up
Okay.
to it's up to the upper management.
That is up. Now, that's where you're correct. It's up to upper management. Now, certainly you have a following with the Mijoses, and obviously they're going to certainly be a huge factor in dictating to where you go. We'll have to find out. The American Viper, Cody Flores, likes that. I want to say hello to somebody from California, Anastasia Racina. I hope that she's doing well out there. She's obviously joined us, and she's from sort of the other coast. You guys are kind of in the southern coast. She's in the western coast, or is the left coast, as they might say, and she's tuned in here, so I appreciate that. Daniel would like to say, on my downtime, I watch a lot of anime, and I'm currently watching One Piece. Okay, that sounds interesting.
And nothing wrong with that.
Now,
Love
listen,
anime
people,
myself.
you know what? Whatever floats your boat these days. I'm certainly not one to judge people and what they want to do. Whatever wants for people to make them happy is fine by me. Usually, I'm not too much into racing games, but I love how much you can upgrade the vehicles in Gran Turismo. Yeah, that's why I always liked Gran Turismo, and that's why I always thought Gran Turismo was a really, really fun game. And that's why I'm also enjoying the movie because I've got a chance to see it twice, and I hope people see that as well. Maybe the snakes can get this thorn taken care of. He's so annoying.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow, man.
yeah.
That's all you can say, man. And you have now been in the ring for how long?
A while.
A while. So do me a favor, Cody. I don't think people like I don't know, kiss ass.
Okay, well, you're certainly a guy that does like to do things his own way. And those are fair points. And we are on Sportswire Radio speaking with the one and only Puerto Rican nightmare himself, Mr. Manny Kobra. You can follow Manny on Instagram at Puerto Rican Nightmare. And that is also Manny Cobra. So it's very simple. Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra. That is with a K. And you can also follow Tennessee Backyard Wrestling on Instagram and YouTube at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you're on YouTube, you can give us a follow here on Sportswire Radio. Also on Twitter at Thomas Bryce 2017, Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. You have a podcast, you have a radio show, whatever you like to air. We play them here free of charge. We give you the opportunity. All you need to do is submit your MP3 or MP4 of your show, and we give people that opportunity. We have some brand new shows that we've just added to the roster from the likes of TBK, the Baltimore Kid, Peter Richards from AOPW, the Promo Federation, and also we've had the likes of Josh Fletcher, aka Fletch from XCW, who has his own show, Giving Receipts, added to the rotation, plus many more shows ahead. You can check out all that stuff on sportnarium.com/player, and also be back here with more coverage coming up Thursday evening. I'll be back here Thursday evening, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Central Time, 9 p.m. with Enoch the Enlightened. And Enoch the Enlightened, of course, is the man who side by side was with Vito Fratelli, our recent guest here, of course, the Bell Collector, the Sicilian powerhouse, and the man who's the made man in the world of professional wrestling. And Enoch has not been with us here in about 8 months, and he's going to talk about what he's been up to, plus who knows what else is on his mind. That'll be, again, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. But right now, we are here with the one and only Puerto Rican Nightmare, Mr. Manny Cobra. 0 days, would like to say you'll see me in the next show, Tom. Well, that's coming up here in a little over a week from now. So I look forward to watching that, Mr. 0 days. We'll see what you bring to the table in that show. And if curling can be an Olympic sport, pro wrestling deserves a spot. I stand by what I said. Yeah, but I mean, realistically, obviously there's wrestling and then there's professional wrestling. So I guess we'll have to find out. You need to focus on someone else who is up and coming. I'm coming after all the TB Dub roster. Your thoughts?
Man, I mean, you go face Thorn first, and let me know, bro.
Okay. Well, I got a couple of comments here from Mr. Thorne. He also says, technically, I beat Shane Davidson, so TNT, Titan, and Thorne finishes the story. So that could be his opinion. And he also says he's already booking himself to be my next guest. Well, my next guest, though, is Thursday evening when that comes to Enoch the Enlightened from the Valley Wrestling Connection. But certainly we can talk off the air about bringing you on to Sportswire Radio. So if that's to answer your question, I can tell you, yes, you can come on the show. We'll book a date. But Mr. Flores would like to say, okay, buddy, apparently someone needs to teach you a lesson in how to respect us Americans. Now, technically, Puerto Rico isn't America, but you guys are sort of like America, so it's not exactly as if like you guys aren't foreigners. It's kind of, people don't really realize that because you guys are on an island technically, and you guys actually have I think it's like a delegate for president. So people don't realize that you guys are technically Americans.
All right, Cody, listen. Like Tom said, we Puerto Ricans, U.S. continent. We are Americans as well.
There
All
you
right.
go. Listen, I know that because of
We
growing up in New
use
York. Yep.
we use $10 bills,
Yep.
$100
There
bills.
you go. Listen,
We
Puerto
still
Rico.
carry the U.S. flag and our flag. Just we're not a state yet. We don't.
Well, I made the point. How do I know this again? I'm from New York, and obviously that's where the largest Puerto Rican population is outside of, well, Puerto Rico. So I know that very well. So I'm not surprised that I'm glad that Mr. Cobra agrees with me because he knows it because he lived there. He also says, Mr. Thorne says, I'm going to be your next guest. Well, that's Thursday, Enoch the Enlightened. But if you want to come on the show, that's the better follow up. I am coming to Sportswire. Yes, we'll talk about that off the air. If we don't follow each other on Instagram, my Instagram is the Sports Report 2021, or get in touch with me on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and we'll talk about that. I want to say hello to also somebody else from California, Skulls the Soul Hunter, who says, hello, everyone. Although apparently he's going to be a different Skulls next year, and he was talking about introducing that, so I'll have to let him talk more about that. And Michael also says, American territory, no passport needed. Exactly my point. Listen, Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands are those places. So, and technically Guam, technically for what it's worth, Guam. So those are the places that, you might not be technically American, but you are American, if that makes sense. So that's the
Yeah.
point there. But he would also like to say, Mr. Thorne, Manny, watch your back. Oos. Okay, well, I got that. But I will ask you, though, since you were the hardcore champion, I mean, that was your first championship so far and your only championship in your career. So what did it mean to you to be the Tennessee Backyard Wrestling hardcore champion?
Well, it mean a lot because I didn't did it for myself. I did it for all the mijos out there
Mm-hmm.
to prove that I could go to the extreme. I'm not gonna take just a U.S. title, intercontinental title. I'm gonna take what can I get? Yeah, what can I take? If it makes sense.
So, I mean,
So I
okay.
when Joe Anderson took out Jacob Young,
Mm-hmm.
figure, you know what? I'm off for the challenge. I'm gonna be the next person face Joe Anderson for that title. And look what happened. I beat him. I beat him 1, 2, 3.
No, you did. You did. But he certainly got his payback and he held two victories over you in two of the biggest shows of the season. But what I will ask you, though, is the next time you win a title, whatever title that might be, what did you learn from that experience as hardcore champion and maybe what to do differently to hold a title longer because you really weren't the hardcore champion very long, the Puerto Rican Nightmare Manny Cobra. So what did you learn from that experience that'll help you the next time you win a belt?
Never let your guard down. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Joe Anderson is I must say this. He he was my one of my greatest challenge.
No
Just like
question.
Gage, just like Gage Blair. Um he was going in the ring and you can't even tell if it's done or not because he's a reaper. You can't tell. You know what I'm saying?
I think Resurrection Wrestling found that out in the elimination match because it took a lot to keep Joe Anderson down, and that's why he was a former world champion, and that's why he's been the top guy in this company. So even they
But
found that out.
basically, he's just like the Undertaker. He reminds me of the Undertaker.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I do see some similarities. There's certainly a little
But
bit of difference.
Undertaker would not go down without a fight. That's
Right.
how
Well,
Joe Anderson does. He won't go out without a fight.
I can see that. No, I could totally see that. And that's why obviously he was a worthy opponent for us. I almost have to ask you a fun question. I mean, how the hell were you able to walk afterwards when you had that dog collar match with him? Because that dog collar match, I mean, there was some spots in that match, the Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra, that I didn't know how you got out of it, let alone walked afterwards.
I'm a tough guy.
I can see
I'm gonna
that.
tell you that. I've been through chair shots, um, spear through a bunch of tree bushes. What is it called? Um, branches. Branches. Let's go with that.
Yes.
Um, I've been spawn buster before. I've been hit with a damn fry pan, whatever. Cookie sheet, uh,
Well, you're hardcore.
trash
That's why you were the
can.
hardcore champion. Listen, that's why you were the champion, and that was the point.
Yeah. I mean, I could take it to extreme if I wanted to.
Okay. Well, we're going to certainly see how you follow this up here. Obviously, again, we're all anticipating with anxious, abated breath the 500-day celebration of Ledger Shade on the 150th episode of TBW Rampage. And obviously, we're hoping to see you back on TV because we haven't seen you in the last couple of shows. We would have certainly thought you would have been there in the Intercontinental title situation. We certainly would have thought you would have been there in the elimination match between TBW and Resurrection. I mean, so I guess I'll ask you as a follow up: are you happy with TBW's performance against Resurrection? I mean, obviously, Mr. Shade got the victory to kind of put the difference there in terms of TBW going over Resurrection. But your overall opinions on that?
I'm I'm gonna say this. Even though me and Gage are not good terms,
He got to win.
at
He got to
least
win.
he got a win for TBW. I'm proud of that. Even though I will got downfalls, I'm proud. Team TBW. Uh, but my greatest disappointment was the tag team.
Yeah, I think we're all disappointed with that because we had Atomic Titan. There was obviously a lot of talk last week on the show who should have been the captain and the whole situation there in terms of nobody took the lead and the people in there. And, there was a number of different things that I think was disappointing. But I think at the end of the day, even though Gage and Ledger got the wins, we still have bragging rights over Resurrection. Before I get to more comments, I did want to ask you, I mean, what is your opinions of the whole TBW Resurrection situation now?
Well, we'll see who's better than who.
Well, that's the point, right? I mean, we're going to certainly find out. And obviously, you can follow Tennessee Backyard Wrestling to watch more of it on YouTube at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Well over 5,000 subscribers are on the YouTube page of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, also Instagram and Facebook at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And management is here. They say Manny Kobra with eyeballs out. And anything you want to say to management? Obviously, you've kind of said a number of different things and some targets you might want, some championship belts you might want earlier on. But anything you may want to say to management?
Hey, Chicos, how about you book me in a no more contender spot at least, or give me Gage, or I don't know, maybe the U.S. title at least, or maybe both title from Ledge.
Hey, boy, you're
I,
asking. Are you asking for early Christmas present? I mean, basically asking out the
hey,
vote.
hey, it's not. I'm just saying, it's not for me. It's for the TBW fans.
I understand that the Mijoses have been way behind you and they're devoted to you. But again, the track record this season has been mixed. So I'm not saying that you don't deserve it, but it's going to be up to management. Do they think that you have a worthy enough case to at least get an intercontinental or a U.S. title shot? I mean, that's really up to management to decide. And that's why we want everybody to tune in this week for episode 150 and again see the celebration. And also want to get to a few comments here. Skulls the Soul Hunter says things blooming, Skulls with the Foundation versus Silverwolf. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. I'll let him kind of let that lie. So that was a good event in TBW. That I definitely agree with. That's why we love TBW, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling on all socials. We've got a little bit more time with you, and I want to ask you then in terms of what are your goals for the rest of the year?
My goals, my goals is at least make a huge impact where before I make decide to retire.
You just say retire.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you don't have much left in this sport? Is that what you're trying to tell
No,
us?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
That's a bold
I,
statement. That's a bold statement you just made there, sir.
I want to make an impact where want the fans believe on me where I want to how bad I want to shut Ledger's mouth and the little penguin.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're concerned about you so much because, again, Joe Anderson, he's took the hardcore title from you and he's kept it. So, I mean, we'll have to see. And I want to say hello to our friends from Iowa called the IMF. They're on YouTube as well. You can give them a sub at IMF Wrestling 666 on YouTube. And also, I want to say hello to their world champion. He is, of course, on his show, Mr. Omen Black. He says, "Don't worry, the Wolf champion is here on his show." And that's me. Well, I did say he was the IMF champion. And he says, "Who is this clown?" Well, it's Manny Kobra. He's the Puerto Rican nightmare from Tennessee Backyard
Clown,
Wrestling.
man. Clown.
Well, you're getting the comments here. You got a tough crowd tonight, kind of a mixed bag. I mean, certainly the me hostess is still with you, but I think people are skeptical in that does Manny Cobra really warrant a title shot against a Gage Flair or Legacy? I think that's really what I've learned tonight. Do you warrant a title shot? It's not my call. I'd be okay with whatever happens. I certainly, believe in you, but the record this season has been kind of mixed.
I mean, the TBW universe, the TBW Mijos deserve a better champ than Ledger.
But I asked the Painmaker this question about a month or two ago, and it didn't seem like they were concerned about anybody on the roster. And I even asked Mr. Allen himself, I said, what's even left to do and accomplish in TBW? Because I look at who Legislate is defeated. I mean, it's pretty much a who's who on the roster. And it's to me almost as if who is the real competition? If you want to say the U.S. title or even and certainly the world title. And I'm skeptical you should see the world title shot ever right now currently. The U.S. title, okay, you want that shot, but I would even say when it comes to Mr. Legislate, you're still facing the individual. So no matter what title you're facing from him, I mean, he's a 500-day champion. He's held the U.S. title for a long time also to boot. I mean, so, I don't know if they're concerned much about anybody. And like I said, I even asked who's left and who's left to go out there and devour.
I if it happens, it won't be the first time. I faced Shed before,
I know.
and
But it's a different
and,
shade you're facing right now. It's a
and
different ledger shade.
exactly. But this Shed hides behind three Goonies.
But
You
he's
know,
even shown though on his own. Remember, Club and Spade have only been added recently. I would remind you.
right?
So
But
he hasn't
also,
had three for the 500 days. He's still in the ring. He's still winning.
right?
Now, I'm not saying I'm a Ledger Shade supporter. I'm just calling it objectively speaking. I mean, yes, I think that you could give a fight. You could certainly give Ledger a competitive match. I definitely agree with you on that. But to be able to actually conquer the Anarchy King, and especially now that he has Club and Spade and is obviously confidant there in terms of Mr. Painmaker himself, Joshua Allen, whatever nickname you want to call him, he's led guy after guy to the promised land. He's been a world champion in this company, so he's doing something right. And Ledger's obviously got the people around him. And, your record has been, again, a mixed bag.
Ledger is not a real champion. He's
Okay, well,
not
that
a
sounds like
real
other
man.
wrestlers that come on Sportswire and say, Ledger
He's not a
Shade.
real man. No
Mm-hmm.
due respect, he's not a real man.
Okay.
He's just a man who walks around like yeah with three people.
But
Do I
isn't
need
he in, but,
do I need let me ask you this.
okay,
Do I
ask me
need
anything
a
you want.
do I need a partner or a manager to beat somebody for a title to keep my title?
But you were the hardcore champion and didn't hold that title very long, though, I would
Oh
say.
yeah, but I won that title fair and square.
You won it fair and square, but you didn't hold on to the title.
True,
I mean, you didn't
but
hold on to it. I mean, so ultimately, you could say what you want about Ledger Shade. And again, I'm not necessarily taking his side, but he's been successful. And in the record book, it shows that he's been the champion, the world champion for 500 days. He's been the U.S. champion. a long time also. And I think that that's obviously speaks to what he is in the ring. And Resurrection's champion also found that out. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, you're stepping up in maybe a notch that you haven't quite been yet. So you're going to have to really convince management. And I have some more comments. Management thinks that you should be a future world champion. Well, you know what? Maybe you will. I don't know. I'm just playing it down the line. I'm just saying, to me, Manny Cobra's record in TBW is so. It's not terrible. It's not the worst. But is it worthy enough when I think of other people? What about the Prophet Jay Wild? I mean, couldn't he arguably be ahead of you to get a title shot? I mean, Atomic Titan was here last week, and he spoke about the fact he's getting his shot back at the Nature Boy Gage Flair. I mean, there are other people on this roster. I mean, the man that took the hardcore title from you, Joe Anderson, the Grim Reaper. I mean, he was on top. He held the championship. He was the man that led this company, and he knows what he's doing. I mean, there are other guys I can go on about. I mean, so Shane Davidson, your tag team partner. I mean, a few weeks back, the man that really got the victory for you guys in the tag match, and that was kind of bizarre and stuff, but I get where you were coming from, so we'll have to see. Cody Fleur would like to say, I don't think so. The Mijoses, what Mijoses? You definitely have the Mijoses. I hear the chants. I definitely.
Cody, I got the mijos, but you over there with cooking some food at your house with an apron. I will not see you wrestle, my guy.
Well,
So
I would say this much. I
do
would
me a
say this.
favor, and cállese.
Ooh, boy, we're getting Spanish talk here, Spanish words here on Sportswire. Sparks are flying. I'll say this much. Not that I'm a cook, but if I was to cook, I certainly wouldn't cook with an apron on. But hey, each to its own. I'm not going to judge anybody. Skulls the Soul Hunter says, if you want a belt so bad, face Craven Rage of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Well, right now, listen, Manny Kobra held the title. He was the hardcore champion in TBW. He did taste success in this company. He knows what it's like to be in big matches. It's just a matter of what I've learned tonight is, can Manny Kobra make the next step to where he's a legitimate guy that can be a top contender, an opponent to a Gage Flair, again, an opponent to Ledger Shade? Is he more deserving of a crack at a title than the Atomic Titan? I don't know those questions. We're going to certainly find out. Obviously, episode 150 is coming up later this week. And again, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. More details. Also, Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra. Go join him on Instagram and follow his journey and find out why he might be the guy that deserves this and also become one of his Mijos. Also buy some merchandise. Also, Redbubble is where you can buy Tennessee Backyard Wrestling merchandise, including your very own Puerto Rican Nightmare Manny Cobra shirt. But Manny Cobra, I obviously am coming to closing thoughts here. Obviously, it has been a tremendous honor to have you. So I wanted to just ask you this question, this last question before I get to closing thoughts here. What do you want to say to all the Mijoses out there that are anxiously awaiting your return coming up here to TBW and finish this second half of the year strong and maybe, just maybe, claim a belt, and a belt that's going to have maybe more meaning and bring you up to where the Mijoses might want you?
All I can say is get ready, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. And never give up.
I agree with that last part. Never give up. Certainly never give up. That was the famous words from the late, great coach Jimmy Valvano, who led the North Carolina State Wolfpack to the 1983 NCAA College Men's Basketball Championship. They were major underdogs, and that was his speech. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. So, Manny, we're going to certainly find out. Ledger Shade needs to be here. Well, I'm not going to say much, but what I am going to say is stay tuned. Never say never. We just had on the legendary Dean Allmark and the Scottish Savage, Davey Blaze, who, oh, by the way, was in a match with a guy named Kevin Nash not too long ago. So you never know who's going to come on to Sportswire. Cody Flores says he'll destroy Manny Cobra. For you, I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Michael Blackheart would like to say, Manny, love your story. Hats off to you. Yeah, definitely. You are definitely, and I will say this much, you are one of the guys I've enjoyed watching this season. You've certainly been a guy that's fought. You haven't given up. You've been in some really tough matches. You've been able to hang in there. You've got some victories. You won a championship this year. So there has been some success. It's just a matter of these next couple of months left in the season. Where do we go from here and how do you finish off? You started the season strong, but will you close it the same way you started it? That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. Stay tuned. But the Puerto Rican Nightmare, it has obviously been a tremendous honor to have you. We certainly enjoyed getting to know you, hearing about Puerto Rico, some of the sports you like, some of the wrestlers, the journey, some stories about some people you've been in the ring with. But I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. And the floor is yours, Manny Kobra, and finish this story and tell us why you're going to be doing some more great things. And floor is yours. Fire away.
Well, not all of y'all know I'm a father of a 4-year-old,
Okay.
and my mainly focus on her and wrestling. And basically, I dedicated that title match, title win for her.
Mm-hmm.
And stay tuned on TVW, watch and see what happens. And who knows? Might happen.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. That's why you want to follow Manny Cobra very simply. Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra on Instagram, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And listen, Manny's fighting for his daughter. That could be his most powerful mijo yet because that could very well propel him to a huge finish to an already big 2023. Gratitude for life from Michael. So that's certainly Michael has become one of the me hosts tonight. So it's not been all bad tonight. You've certainly won
Much
some people.
respect.
Hey, listen, you've won some people tonight over. So it's you're winning some people. Some other people say, well, what do we do? What do we say about the record of you going against Gage or Ledger? But you have won some people tonight. And I think that just shows the story of you never give up, continue to keep fighting. And that's why I think the me hosts are going to be behind you. And we'll have to see what management thinks and more. My friend, I can't thank you enough. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day. I can't wait to see you back out there on TBW. Hopefully it's at 150 later this week. And I hope to have you on here on Sportswire Radio very soon in the near and distant future. Next time, maybe with a championship belt.
Maybe.
You never
Much
know. Listen, hope springs eternal. And as the old adage is from John F. Kennedy, a rising tide lifts all boats. And ladies and gentlemen, our rising tide to lift our boats is the Puerto Rican Nightmare, Manny Cobra, who definitely has many Mijoses behind him. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. And if you're on YouTube and Twitter, I'll be back 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with Enoch the Enlightened. And please follow our friends at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. The number one